Right now in South Korea, the social contract is not just breaking, it has been incinerated. And the ashes are being swept into a gutter by a generation of men who realized the game was rigged before the first card was even dealt. We are currently tracing a 20-year arc of profound social decay that began with the radicalization of the 2018 no-corset movements, a period where the domestic sphere was transformed into a literal battlefield of ideologies. This cultural friction led to a state-level panic that forced major institutions like MBC to overhaul their labor agreements, under the relentless pressure of Workplace Gapjil 119 regulations. The situation became so volatile that the government began hiring specialized intelligence officers, including high-level graduates from Monash University and strategic veterans from the Air Force, to map the collapse of the national birth rate as if it were an encroaching military threat. But while the bureaucrats are busy drawing charts in Seoul, the real revolution is happening on the factory floors of Gyeonggi province. Meet the primary subject of our intelligence profile, a 41-year-old male born in 1986. He represents the silent blue-collar majority that keeps the industrial gears of the nation turning. In 2021, at the age of 36, he attempted to play the traditional game of social ascension through marriage. He had a girlfriend 5 years his junior, he had a stable job, and he had a plan. However, the union was summarily blocked by the girlfriend's parents. The reason was as cold as a morgue slab. He was a high school graduate working in a manufacturing facility. To the status-obsessed gatekeepers of the Korean middle class, his grease-stained uniform was a permanent stain on their daughter's potential. He wasn't seen as a partner, he was seen as a low-yield asset. That rejection was the precise moment the autonomous bachelor was born. He didn't spiral into depression, he performed a total pivot of his capital allocation. He took the marriage savings he had painstakingly accumulated, money originally intended for a wedding hall and a bloated down payment, and bought a 2-room villa in the suburban outskirts. He paid for it outright. He owns the roof over his head 100% with zero debt. He drives a compact car that is paid off. He has achieved a level of financial sovereignty that the elite white-collar workers in Gangnam, drowning in 30-year mortgages and private education costs, can only dream of. Let's break down the 2.91 million Korean won fortress. To the hyper-materialistic social critics, he is a 300 chung, a derogatory label for those earning 3 million Korean won or less. They view him as a bottom feeder who failed the entry test for a respectable life. But the math tells a different story. His monthly net income is 2.91 million Korean won. Because he has eliminated the marriage tax from his life, his savings rate is a staggering 60%. Every month, 700,000 Korean won is funneled into a state-sponsored youth leap account. 100,000 Korean won goes into a housing subscription that he will never use for a family but serves as a strategic backup. Another 700,000 Korean won is pumped directly into US equities. He doesn't bet on the volatile Korean won or the stagnant local KOSPI. He bets on the S&P 500, on Nvidia, on the engines of global technological dominance. The remaining 1.41 million Korean won covers his utilities and a lifestyle that is optimized for zero stress. His logistics are a masterclass in efficiency. Lunch and dinner are provided by his company. On Saturdays, he frequents a local Korean-style buffet filled with other industrial workers who eat in a profound, comfortable silence. Sundays are the only days he touches his stove. His leisure time is spent in a sanctuary of high-end technology. He owns an ultra-spec PC with a 4090 graphics card, a machine that provides more consistent dopamine than any modern dating app ever could. He reports that upon entering his 40s, his biological libido has declined, and he views this as a liberation. The digital libido substitution is complete. Why spend 500,000 Korean won on a weekend of performative dating? To appease a partner who views you as a spec monster, when you can achieve 100% satisfaction for the price of a high-speed internet connection. The statistical projections for this lifestyle are terrifying for the state but comforting for the individual. By 2030, the male celibacy rate for men in their 40s is projected to hit 35% to 40%. By 2040, that number surges to 55%. We are following the Japanese benchmark set in 2020, where 28% of 50-year-old men had never married. But Korea is doing it faster and with more resentment. This is not a failure to launch, it is a strategic retraction. These men are practicing what we call aesthetic liquidation. They have realized that in 2026, simply not losing is the new winning. While married couples are one divorce away from total asset liquidation and a 50-50 split that leaves both parties in poverty, the bachelor's average life is an impregnable fortress of stability. The irony of the girlfriend's parents' rejection is now peaking. In their attempt to protect their daughter from a low-status husband, they have condemned her to long-term economic instability. in an era where the single female demographic is becoming the most economically vulnerable. Meanwhile, the rejected factory worker has become a debt-free homeowner with a global stock portfolio. He has achieved the ultimate act of individual sovereignty. His endgame strategy is the Swiss exit. He has no direct heirs, so he plans to continue this high savings lifestyle until his body begins to fail. He will then bequeath his assets to his nephews and nieces, creating a new class of golden nephews, accidental trust fund aristocrats who will inherit from multiple bachelor uncles. Once the paperwork is done, he will book a one-way ticket to Switzerland for legally assisted euthanasia. He refuses to be a consumer for the elder care industry. He refuses to let the state tax his final breath. He will exit the world as he lived in it, debt-free, autonomous, and entirely on his own terms. Now, let's look at the absolute wreckage left behind by the social engineers who thought they could shame men into submission. You spent 20 years building a wall of requirements so high that only the top 1% of males could even reach the base. You created the Spec-monster culture, where a man is judged by his university rank, his apartment square footage, and his father's retirement plan. You cheered for the no-corset protests and the radical decoupling of the genders, thinking you were dismantling a patriarchy. But you are actually dismantling the only safety net you had. The ugly sisterhood's revenge has turned into a self-inflicted economic wound. You nuked your own sanctuary. You mocked the factory workers, the 300 chung, and the blue-collar survivors, calling them dirty old widowers or Horby myths. But look at them now. They aren't dirty, they are debt-free, they aren't lonely, they are at peace. They are sitting in their two-room villas, watching their Nvidia stocks hit all-time highs, while you are drowning in a sea of rising rents and the realization that the state welfare you counted on is a ghost town. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. You spent your 20s sucking the honey out of the consumer economy, spending your savings on luxury bags and European vacations while calling it investment in yourself. You save for wedding costs as if the marriage itself was the finish line, never realizing that the economy doesn't care about your bridal photos. And now, in 2026, you realize that the men you rejected have hoarded the only capital that matters, real estate and global equities. They have decoupled their capital from the gender contract. They are no longer subsidizing your lifestyle through marriage. They are no longer the middle-class equilibrium that redistributed male wealth to female consumption. The great marital decoupling is here, and it is a fiscal gender conflict that the state is not prepared to handle. The tax base of the future is a wall of single, self-funded men who will vote against any social program designed to bail out the demographic that rejected them in their youth. They feel no guilt, they feel no obligation. They are the survivors of the grind path who watch the shortcut seekers hit a brick wall. The parents' paradox is the most delicious irony of all. Those parents in 2021 thought they were being strategic. They thought they were protecting their lineage by holding out for a doctor or a lawyer. Instead, they ensured their daughter's decline while the factory worker they spat on became the most resilient financial unit in the country. He chose the flat line of contentment over the probabilistic ruin of a modern marriage. He bypassed the peak of family happiness to avoid the valley of total asset liquidation. He is the industrial stoic who realized that a 4090 graphics card has a higher return on investment than a partner who views him as a paycheck. He is the man who eats his Saturday buffet in silence, knowing that every bite is paid for by his own labor, not by a high-interest loan. He is the master of his own biological decline, watching his libido fade like a dying signal and greeting the silence with a smile. This is the individualistic Armageddon. When everyone chooses peace of mind over propagation, the society functionally ceases to exist, but the individual dies happy. He has won the game by refusing to play it. He has liquidated the expectations of his ancestors and replaced them with a one-way ticket to a Swiss clinic. He is the autonomous ghost in the machine of 2026, and he is laughing all the way to the brokerage account. Fuel the truth at dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.